Oh, see, you're all very well behaved. Awesome. Okay, and I'm going to change the screen here, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian or Daryl. I don't know who's going to go first.
Well, I guess I'll go first. Shall we start off with a prayer? How about that?
That was good.
Okay, great. Well, since I did the prayer at lunchtime, I guess I could do the prayer again or something. How's that sound, Daryl? Unless you want to.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. As we gather ourselves this evening, we thank you for this fellowship and drawing us together. We thank you, God, for drawing us together in this fellowship and this next period of time. Please bless us. Let us hear you and each other's voice. Let us be inspired by the call of the blood and our community's charism, and use this meeting to continue to come together as one community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, any questions?
So I would say, Brian, now you get to pick on your brothers in community on who gets to share their story first.
Yeah, so maybe this is just sort of the time I'm going to ask my fellow brothers to kind of talk about their faith journey, in their experience and calling into the community, and particularly into the vocation as a brother.
You're going to have to just pick people because they're not going to volunteer to go first.
All right, I should have brought a drum with a air thing with names. I should have picked a name out of a hat, or picked the name out of the drum. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Daryl to step up to the plate and swing.
All right. For those companions maybe who are on this Zoom that may not know me, I'm Daryl Sharon, and I'm from the Kansas City province, and I'm the only brother in the Kansas City province, and so I'm looking forward to the two provinces coming together, so that then I'll be amongst 20-some brothers then at that point, which will be very nice. And I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. I wanted this to happen back when Barry Fisher was the moderator general. I wanted the provinces to come together. So I've been patiently waiting all these years to come together with more brothers. I was to kind of explain my faith journey. When I first came to the Missionaries of the Precious Blood when I was 19 years old, I was on a track towards priesthood at first. So I went through college on that track. I even went through special formation on that track. It wasn't until I got to advanced formation at Catholic Theological Union that there was a change in my discernment. It was second year theology. And I read this book, Blessed Ambiguity, Brothers in the Church. And at the same time, I was also taking a course at Catholic Theological Union called Theology of Church. Father Jack Lenan taught the course. And we got into big discussions on ecclesiology and roles in the church and what the different faithful do in the church. And at that point, I mean, a lot of it was real kind of heady sort of stuff, knowledge, reading this inspirational book, Blessed Ambiguity, Brothers in the Church, and then also taking the Theology of Church course that I started having a change in my outlook in my vocation. And it was so strong that I brought it to the attention of my formation director, that I said, I really feel like I'm being called to the brotherhood. And it was kind of a deeper reflection was those brothers in the Kansas City province who had such a strong effect on me in my, in my initial formation, just really started to dawn on me again, just the life that they lived and how they inspired me. And one person in particular was Robert Herman, and his life very much inspired me into the brotherhood. And at that point, I switched my training, went ahead and got my Master's of Divinity at Catholic Theological Union, but then moved into my first assignment, which went very well. It was during CTU days that I did ministry practicum in the hospital at Columbus Hospital on the north side, and really felt drawn to healthcare ministry, hospital ministry, and that kind of confirmed what was to come ahead in my brotherhood, to be able to be engaged in the ministry, and especially hospital ministry. But as I left there and I went to Centerville, Iowa, and a big hello to all the Centerville folks. It's so good to have you all on this Zoom. It was a wonderful experience in Centerville, Iowa, among the companions there. They were so welcoming, and my first assignment, but that first assignment, thanks be to God, I was able to go into hospital ministry at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital in Centerville. That's where I felt God was calling me in the ministry, and as well as being in the music ministry, director of the music, and helping plan liturgies. And I know Dewey McConville's on this call, and she was one of the musicians I got to meet and work with in Centerville, which is so important in that first assignment as a brother to have the affirmation that I got. And I certainly got that from the companions there, and also from Joe Miller. And so I started out, that was a very positive experience. I went from there into retreat ministry at Shauna Bonham House of Prayer, which is a beautiful experience to once again offer my skills as a brother in leading, being the guest coordinator of retreats in a retreat house. And so I did that a couple of years, and then after that I did my first stint into being initial formation director, and only had one candidate at that time, and lo and behold, I only have one candidate now, second time around. But I did that for 3 years, and then I went into hospice work. That was a big step. I've always been inspired by lay people in the church and certain religious, and one of my favorite saints is Dorothy Day is one who's not a saint yet, but Mother Teresa, in the works she did among the sick and the dying, and it's always kind of been of inspiration to me. And also Saint Gaspar, in the work he did with in the hospice and in his days, working with people who are sick, that to do it at a more intense level in hospice, and to do that for 10 years for Catholic Charities hospice in Kansas City area was just a beautiful ministry to do as a brother, to work with people as they're dying. And so I went from that ministry into a ministry at the center, the Renewal Center in Kansas City, as a guest coordinator, and also doing social justice work. It was a 2-part ministry, And what is nice to get in, break into some other ministries besides healthcare and see, you know, really what I could be capable of, and social justice ministry and being guest coordinator really allowed me to do that and to expand my horizons as a brother. And then I moved on from that, once again, kind of challenged to see, you know, what kind of skills I could develop. I went into foreign mission work in Vietnam for the Vietnam mission, and I did that for 3 years, which is a wonderful experience to be among the you know, our foreign missionaries in Vietnam, and then to come back once again, be called back into formation ministry, which I love to do, and to do it second time around. I was grateful to say yes to the ministry again, and then that, along with thanks to Brother Bryan, he kind of got me back into hospital ministry again at Franciscan Health in Dyer and Munster, Indiana. And I'm able to do that on weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. I do 3 shifts a week. And that's a really nice balance between being back in healthcare as well as working in formation ministry. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And I'm in leadership also, which is an important ministry too. I'm trying to feel my way. This is my 3rd year and being on the provincial council. And so that's been a new ministry for me. It's a challenge, but you know, it's coming along.
Daryl, you forgot one of your teachers.
Yeah, Claire Ann Wheeler is on the Zoom. She taught me religious ed back in the elementary school, grade school, CCD. That was a wonderful experience. So yeah, good to see you again, Claire Ann.
Thank you, Daryl. Juan, can you go next?
Sure. Well, hi everybody. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Brother Juan Acuna. I guess my story begins in Chile. I was born in Chile, so my connection with the missionaries was through the St. Gaspar schools in Santiago. So the missionary have this school. So I grew up with them. I think I was a student in the St. Gaspar school since I was 5 years old, I think. So I grew up around the missionaries of the Precious Blood in Chile and the sisters, the Dayton sisters, that also work in that school. So I was always attracted to the, I don't know, to the missions. I was very involved in voluntary works during my time in high school, especially. We had a mission in the south of Chile that we kind of created during that time. So Barry Fisher was the principal of the school at that time. Then Father Larry Iding. And so after high school, after finishing high school, I kind of decided that I wanted to become a missionary. So at that time, there were no brothers in Chile, so I didn't know any brother actually. And I asked one of the priests at that time to join the community. And unfortunately, at that time, there was a very complicated time in Chile. It was the end of a dictatorship. So it was a time of a lot of kind of unrest, social unrest. And this priest told me, why don't you go to college first? Like, he kind of recommended me not to join the community at that time. And so kind of followed his advice. I kept connected with the community, but I went to college to study engineering. So that's what I did, and I continue participating in the missions and the kind of vocation discernment retreats and stuff. And when I graduated, I reconnected with Barry Fisher, and I kind of asked him, well, I finished, so now I want to really have a time of more serious discernment. I'm an engineer. Right? At that time, Barry was the moderator general, and so he was here in Rome, and he invited me to come here to the general. I say, why don't you come here and help in this project, building a website for the community, and you can do some time of discernment here in Rome. So I did that. So I came here in 2001, and my first encounter with a brother was actually here. Tom Bonham was here, participating in. It was a general assembly, a special general assembly. So actually, that kind of got me kind of curious about the vocational brothers. Like, oh well, who is this Tom Bonham? What's he doing here? So it was like, hi Tom, and no, the whole vocational brother kind of began to make sense to me at that time, because I say, well, I'm an engineer. I'm already working for the community, so I said, well, I think I can be a brother. So my discernment at that time kind of took me to that direction. So I applied again to join the community, but unfortunately that time my dad got really sick. He had a cancer, and so basically I had to kind of change my plans, and I went back to Chile. My dad was an engineer also, so he had a construction company. So basically I took care of the company, finished his projects, and helped basically my family. It was, that time was my older brother and myself. We were the adults in the family, so we took care of our younger siblings, and my mom, I wasn't working at that time, so we took care of the family. So my dad eventually, well, after 2 years, he passed, and I didn't like really much the construction work, so I found another job working for the government in Chile, in finances. So I did that. I kept connected with the community, but at that point I thought, well, I'm too old now to become a missionary. So I kind of put that idea kind of behind. I said, well, maybe it's not for me. And I kept connected with Barry and other missionaries, but I was kind of doing my life in a different direction at that point. And so time passed until 2006, that there was the CPPS organized an international symposium on the vocational brothers. So Barry called me again, and he said, Juan, you need to participate in this symposium. I know you wanted to become a brother, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I'm too old now. But say, no, you have to come. It's going to be the United States, and Maria Stein, and this and that. And he was very, persistent. He wanted me there. So So, well, I took some time off. I was working, as I said, for the government at that time. So I have to ask for vacation, you know, and I went to the U.S. the Symposium, and that experience kind of rekindled kind of everything for me again. Meeting the other brothers, it was a great experience for me, and so at that point I was very confused. I was like, oh, so should I give this a chance again? And so I kind of decided to say, well, this is going to be like the third time I try to join the community. So I said, well, if I don't do it now, it won't. It's now or never kind of thing. So I applied again to join the community, and in Chile there was no formation program for brothers, so they offered me to go to the U.S. and do the formation in the U.S. because they had I would have, you know, a brother program there, and the support of other brothers. So that's what I did, and it was a big kind of step for me because I had to quit my job, left my country, but I guess for me it was probably the best decision. I moved to Dayton, and there I met Brother Jerry Schulte. I think he's there somewhere. There it is. And he was my formator. So that was the beginning of my formation, my inspiration there. Hi, Jerry. So, and I don't know, and the rest is history. And now I'm here back in Rome, where all began.
Great. Thank you, Juan. I'm going to go next, and I'm going to kind of keep it concise. So I think some of you know me. I'm Bryan. Maybe a few. I'm Bryan Boyle from Whiting, Indiana. Why was I called to the precious blood? Kind of for the same reason that, it's hard if you live in Green Bay, it's hard not to be a Packer fan. It was sort of like I joined the community. I joined a religious community, and I shopped around, but in the end, you kind of end up with your home team in a way. And so I, similar to Juan and Daryl, I have the same sort of educational stuff behind me, and most of you know that I'm with, I'm a hospital chaplain, and I'm associate director of companions. However, so, growing up in St. John the Baptist in Whiting, there's these sort of mentors and pillars in the community like Ben Basil, Tom Bowman. And I didn't necessarily have direct interaction with them because Tom may have been reassigned by the time I got to junior high, and Tom was a junior high teacher. Ben was always in music ministry. So those characters were always present. I had George Blackney as a music teacher when I was a real, little kid. And sort of going through high school and college and kind of discerning a vocation all in here. And then I was working as a community organizer in a couple of years, and I was working with kids in Oakland, California, in low-income Oakland, California. I was a community organizer in Oakland and then in Des Moines, Iowa for 4 years total. And then I, met up with the vocations director, Angela Anthony, and, they let me in, believe it or not. So and I ran into this guy named Jerry, who was my formator. And that's what did it for me. I kept an open mind as to what specific vocation I wanted to follow. But I think following on sort of the experiences that I had around Precious Blood Brothers growing up as a child with Ben, Tom, and George Blackney, and sort of the experience of having brother Jerry Schulte, that's the Jerry, and other brothers like Bernie Bargy, and and Tom, and what have you, Hugh Henderson. And I think having those, looking at their ministry and feeling what I'm called to do, seemed to be the brother vocation made a lot of sense. I was on retreat in Ruma, Illinois, and in this sort of like it was a formation retreat, and Daryl was there, even though he was out of formation. And he was the first person I had this conversation about wanting to be a brother. And I remember sharing this almost as if it was like a confession or something like that. And Daryl thinks about it for like 5 seconds, and he just said, "Yeah, that makes sense. Why don't you go ahead and do that?" So, and that was a real freeing experience. And that was back like 18 years ago. That was like 2002, 2003, 2004. And after I had that one conversation with Daryl, then I shared it with other appropriate people in the community, and here I am. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah. Why don't I ask, or who would, instead of calling on people, I think maybe I could let this bird fly from the nest. Who else would like to go?
Well, I don't know who can see me or who cannot see me. I've got 2 computers in front of me, and I can see my face on my laptop, but not on the desktop. So at any rate, hello to everyone. This is Brother Terry Neufer, born in 1951, yesterday, as a matter of fact. So 70 years old now, whoopee whoopee. Went to grade school in Winnemac, Indiana, was baptized by Leo Landau, made my first communion with Alban Bauer, was recommended to Brunnerdale by Robert Roster, so precious blood is in my blood. Went to Brunnerdale with several of the people on the screen from 65 to 68, went on to college, graduated there the first time in 72, went to teach at Brunnerdale for 2 years, and then God turned my life upside down and put me up into Cleveland at Our Lady, what was then Our Lady of Good Counsel Parish, and I became a church musician. Who knew? So since then, that's what I've been doing in various different places: Cleveland, Elkhart, Indiana, Portage, Indiana, Ottawa, Ohio. I've been here at the Sorrowful Mother Shrine, 1/2 hour south of Cedar Point, for those of you that like roller coasters. And I've been here since January of 11, so this is my 11th year.
Thank you, Terry.
Over.
Thank you.
Just a brief commercial. If you want to go visit Brother Terry in July 2022, we're going to have a companion day at the Sorrowful Mother Shrine. So go visit Brother Terry and go on the roller coaster.
All right, thanks, Terry. I saw Ben Basil with his hand up. Hit it.
I'll give you the short version. Father Louis Gelhaus took me bowling in New Jersey and here I am.
Oh,
So
You're still in
anyway,
New Jersey?
no, I'm in Whiting, yeah. So yeah, I've been out here for a long time. The community, I was in a diocesan parish in New Jersey, but our guys came every June to do parish missions at our parish, Our Lady of Good Counsel in Moorestown, New Jersey, and the neighboring parish in Maple Shade. The pastors were, our pastor was Michael O'Keefe, and the pastor in Maple Shade was Nolan was his last name. And the leader in the Precious Blood parish mission band was in that time was Joe McNicholas. So it was the Irish connection out there. But that was in the 60s, and I was playing. There was something in the back of my mind. There was a religious brother that lived whose parents lived down the street, and I would see him come home for like a week or two in the summer. I never had any interaction with him, but I saw him walk by back and forth from mass because church was at the other end of the street. But there was something in the back of my mind. And in those days, it was, this was 1965 when I graduated high school. It was tough getting into college. You applied early. And I had vocation literature from Father Louis, and I saw that the Precious Blood guys ran a college in Rensselaer, and I thought, well, they must run a good college because I like these guys, and I've liked the spirit of the community from those days when I was in grade school. Whatever came across that attracted me. And so I went to St. Joe College as we called them in those days, secular student. And during that first year, a fellow that I met was talking about religious vocation. That got me thinking. And as Bryan said, I shopped around. And I came to find out that the brothers in the Precious Blood community were, who I saw were doing farm work and electrician and carpentry and things like that at St. Joe, that the formation was also at that time opening up for others of us because I wanted to be a high school teacher and teach math. That was the other thing that I was settled on. So along came Brother Gerard von Hagel in this, and both of us liked opera. So all of this swirled around and this confluence of different things. And I ended up joining the formation program at St. Joe College. And there was an article in the Cincinnati newsletter a couple of months ago. My publicist has been working overtime. And so if you can find that's the bigger story. But I've been at, I was at Bernerdale for 10 years. It was my first teaching assignment, and ended up being principal for the last 3 years. And then came to Calumet College of St. Joseph here in Whiting. And I've been here ever since. But I've also done on the side music ministry, and 20 years in inner city music ministry at the Cathedral of the Holy Angels. And I still am connected there, although I'm not doing music. I was doing organ tuning today there. So music has been a big part of my life. And so their brothers have all kinds of ministries that they are called to, if whether they're formal or not. And so anyway, I think I've said enough for right now.
Thank you, Words of wisdom, Ben. Thank you. Who would like to go next?
I'll go, Brian.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Matt Shafer. I live in Dayton, Ohio right now. Sorry, I kept signing off and on. I had to find a better computer that had a better picture on it. Let me see. Unlike some of the other guys, I'd never heard of missionaries of precious blood until I was 30 or so. Was raised Catholic, but I'd never in my life even remotely thought of a vocation in the church. Never occurred to me until I was about 30, and I had sort of I think God was putting me on some kind of like a personal spiritual renewal. I kind of had my own renewal of my faith, and I kind of realized that, God had to be in the middle, in the center of my life. And eventually, I mean, that kind of led me to a vocation, and God was telling me to pursue a vocation. I didn't even know what that was, was the odd thing. And the help I asked for my pastor, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I asked my pastor, and he really wasn't too helpful. I contacted someone at the diocese who was not helpful at all. A priest there who talked to me for 5 minutes, and that was about it. So I was a very patient person, so I just kind of waited. And eventually I heard about this discernment weekend in Columbus for the diocese. So there were lots of several priests there, including a precious blood priest, Father Angelo, and one brother, not a precious blood brother, but a Salesian brother, the first brother I ever met in my life, and a lot of sisters. And they were all very happy about their vocation. So that's really when my vocation started. So I was like 30 years old by this time. I liked Father Angelo, and he kept in contact with me. And I kind of went to a discernment weekend because I didn't want to let Father Angelo down. He invited me, but I really didn't want to go. And I drove to Dayton, and I remember just driving around because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get there early. But I said, well, he's such a nice guy, I'm going to go. But when I walked in the door, I immediately felt like I was at home. And that was Precious Blood Rectory. Actually, I live at Precious Blood Church right now, but that was Precious Blood Rectory in Dayton. And it just felt like home. The first guys I ever met were there, and first Precious Blood guys, really where I really found out about the community. And I eventually joined. I kind of took my time. Like I said, I was older, so I had to leave a job I'd been at for a while and get rid of all my stuff. So I wanted to make sure. So when I entered in 99, and just came in focusing on becoming a missionary. I wasn't thinking about brother or priest at all. I was preparing to perhaps be a priest because I was taking all these philosophy classes that you had to have if you wanted to be a priest. And turns out I didn't need to take any of them, but I was just focusing on being a missionary and trying to enjoy the community, enjoy the formation, and I really did enjoy formation. That's some people don't as much, but I really liked formation a lot. It was a time of a lot of just learning a lot about the community and a lot about the church and meeting people all over the place. I'm sure I met some of you companions during our formation time, and when we went all around the country for a couple of summers. But it was about 2 years I was in the community before I really thought about being a brother. Like I said, I was just kind of letting God lead me wherever. And after 2 years, it really just, God was just saying that I should be a brother. And I kind of thought, well, someone's going to ask me why, so I better think why. And as it turns out, no one ever asked me why. I just said I wanted to be a brother, and they said, okay. And no one ever really asked me why. But I mean, the real reason was I'm kind of a, I was in Catholic school in the 70s, and I'm very much a Vatican II Catholic to my core. And so the idea of staying a layperson in the church was very attractive to me. And so as a brother, I'm still a layperson. Sometimes people talk about religious as if they're not lay people, but we really are. Brothers are lay people. So that was kind of the main reason. And again, God was calling me to it. I had people ask me why, and I said, well, it's God asked me to do this. When I entered in formation, I was at graduate school in Chicago at Loyola and also at CTU. And when I left formation, I was teaching. I was teaching at Calumet College and at St. Joseph College. And then I moved to, Provincial asked me to move to Rensselaer. And I moved into the rectory in Rensselaer. And I never wanted to work in a parish, really. But I moved in and I was teaching at the college, but living at the parish. And after a year, they had 2 jobs at the parish that they couldn't find anyone to take. So I took the 2 jobs. One was a bookkeeper, one was as bookkeeper, and one was as director of religious education. And so I was a bookkeeper at DRE, and I was teaching at the college at the same time. And then I actually came to love parish ministry. It surprised me because I had never expected it, but I really liked parish ministry. And then after 4 years, I moved to Dayton, and coincidentally, I kind of wanted to get back for a number of reasons, but because my mother was getting older and stuff, wanted to get closer to home. And I talked to Father Angelo, and at his parish in Dayton, they had 2 job openings, and one was for a bookkeeper and one was for a DRE. So the same 2 jobs I was doing in Indiana, I had open for me in Dayton. And I'm still there. I've been here for 8 years now, working at Emmanuel Parish. I was living with 5 guys downtown, and then now I live back in the formation house, the old formation house at Precious Blood is where I live, with 3 other guys, 3 priests that live here. So in addition to working in the parish, I'm also I run the CCD program. I run the RCA program for the 3 parishes, and then I do all the finances for the parish. And on the side, I do tutoring. I've always liked tutoring. I've done literacy tutoring for like 15 years. And I'm also a spiritual director. When I came to Dayton, I did a spiritual direction program. And so I've been a spiritual director for the last couple of years. And I think that's me up to date.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, the floor is open.
I guess I can go, Brian.
Please, Rob, go ahead.
Keep things moving. I'm Rob Reuter. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised there. And even as a boy, I felt some sort of calling to a vocation, but I looked into it briefly, and priesthood just didn't seem attractive to me. I went to a diocesan parish. So I didn't know what a brother was. I just thought if you had a vocation, it was to priesthood. And I never really felt called to sacramental ministry. So I figured, okay, I guess I was mistaken, and I went on to college. And I loved philosophy, so I got a degree in philosophy and was going to end up teaching that. And it was in college where I learned about brothers. I thought, oh, okay, that seemed to fit me a lot better. That seemed to fit my personality much better being a brother. So I started looking into that while finishing up college and looking for jobs. And I tried a couple other communities and nothing, again, seemed to fit. And I ended up at St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer. Never heard of Precious Blood before. But I got a job there to teach philosophy. But I was at that time really convinced, okay, I'm looking into this brotherhood thing. And I was getting older too. So it's like I didn't have much time. And so when I got there, I wasn't even thinking vocation there, but I met Brother Tim Hem. And there's a couple other brothers there too, but especially Brother Tim. And, he was, so here's a guy he was a campus minister at the time, but he had, for many years previous, he worked in the motor pool. And in high school, I was 11th and 12th grade, I was full-time at a trade school learning diesel mechanics. So we kind of had that in common, although he's much better mechanic than I am and much more experienced, but we kind of talked about that. And here's a guy, he drove a pickup truck too, and he liked camping. He liked to have a beer every now and then. He wore jeans and a t-shirt. And I thought, wait a minute, I think this may be the community for me. And so I started the discernment journal with him. And the more I learned about precious blood charism and spirituality, the more I liked it. The more I went to discernment retreats, the more brothers I met, the more I thought, yeah, I like these brothers, I like this community, and so on. So, so I entered formation, and my initial formation director is Brother Jerry Schulte, and that for sure solidified my desire to be a brother. Jerry is still sort of the epitome of what a brother should be in my mind. And so. One summer in formation, I worked with Tom Bowman, and so I liked. So I continued on that track. No regrets. I ended up back at St. Joe. Taught philosophy there for 20 years, probably over 20 years. In fact, I'm still here. The college closed in 2017. But along the way, about 2010, 11, teaching wasn't really subbing well with me anymore. I mean, I didn't mind it, but I took a year sabbatical in my hometown of Cleveland at St. Adelbert's with Tom Bowman, who I'm sure he would rather forget that experience. But it was a very good experience. And he said, we have 2 jobs open. I was just going to take some time to figure things out. He said, I think he said, we have 8th grade teacher and maintenance. I said, I'll take maintenance. So I did maintenance there for a year, and I loved it. I mean, I thought that I really loved doing that. And so when I came back, and then I came back to St. Joe after the 6th year was over. I was there for a year. And I was actually preparing to talk to our physical plant director here, saying, look, I want to move out of the faculty and move into physical plant somewhere. I don't have any skills or anything like that. So maybe I can be an assistant somewhere or in housekeeping or something. And right about the time I was getting prepared to do that, St. Joe announced that it was closing. And then Provincial Larry Hemmegower asked all of us who were still in ministry there what we wanted to do. And I said, well, if it's possible, I'd like to stick around and help the physical plant do whatever they need to do to wrap things up and so on. And that was 4.5 years ago. So I'm still here. And I really like what I'm doing, but I like teaching, but I like this much more. Not that I'm that good at it. I just haven't had that much experience doing it. But I assist the physical plant guys. I assist the electricians and the plumber and the carpenter.
Wow.
So that's pretty much brings you up to date.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Would one of the guys, would Tim, Nick, or Jerry like to go next?
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Nick
Thanks.
Brenner. Been a brother, started studying for the Brotherhood in 1962, August 19th, 1962. I was in my cousin's wedding the day before. The next day I came down to St. Mary's and the Bishop at Burkittsville. Our program then was totally different than what we have now. This was pre-Vatican. And we had very much of the Benedictine style, very much silence and much isolated from the world. Then, matter of fact, in high school, I looked at a Benedictine community at St. Michael's. Considered that at one point. So that gave me a little bit of understanding of, I thought what religious life was like, and an aunt that was a nun, very strict orders. So that was my background at that point. I was, since the 8th grade, had that thing in my heart about being a brother. I only met one brother, a Holy Cross brother before that, and I couldn't really shake that. You know, I lived a very active high school, running around, playing sports and parties and dates and all that. But I couldn't get the heart quite satisfied till I would do a real trying this out of being a brother. So I did start in 62, and I didn't know they even had a farm at that point. I was going to go down, give it a year or whatever, and get it on the system that move on what I thought I would rather do, my own choices. But I always had that tug of God in my heart, and so I ended up being on the farm, starting way back then, all the way up to 2005. Well, last year when we closed the farm operation, and so all this was to help support the seminary, St. Charles, with the education and all the costs that went on here, and it fit a religious life, you know, prayer and work, camaraderie, and so forth. Got a little restless after about 3 or 4 years, and I wanted to get more involved. When Vatican II started opening up and said we were community, realized we were an apostolic community and a contemplative community. So yes, we need to pray and work and play. So we were apostolic. So I started teaching catechesis after I was trained. Taught for 50, I think it was actually 49 years, senior religion in the Mercer County area, which is St. Charles Center now area. Had made a lot of friends, and because I've always stayed here in the county. So all those years I was here, saw many, many changes in the community. How we did formation, how we tried to keep discerning who we are, what precious blood spirituality means. Paul always stayed with me to be a brother. I did discern twice of priesthood, but I didn't go very far with that because I just moved deep down. It just wasn't there. And so why go there if it wasn't there? And so because I saw the needs coming in the third part of the world. It's getting shorter and shorter. That wasn't for me. So I had to fill those spots otherwise. So I had catechesis for all those years. I've been involved with many, many apostolic works in the area and so forth, and with the companions. For a long time, 20-some years. Since the very beginning, matter of fact. Yeah, now I'm in about, since we let the farms go, I'm still managing the farms. And I also work part-time in visiting the sick, nursing homes and homebound people. I love that. That's good. That's very good. Back to the agriculture part of me, that's just never left and never just begin to leave, even though we weren't actively farming anymore. So I got involved more with conservation, environmental issues, and starting seeing our lakes across the Grand Lake St. Mary's and Gulf of Mexico and Lake Erie getting so polluted, mostly from phosphorus from our farm fields. I continue my energies and my enthusiasm with that, and one different awards, been in many boards in that area, and this seeing that if we're holy, our bodies are made from the field, so we have to keep them holy too, and treat the soil right with soil health, make soil healthy food. Now this month, or actually next month, I'll be receiving the Educator of the Year for the State of Ohio Award. for my work with educating farmers, with research with Ohio State University, Purdue, a lot of local projects, experimentation on our farms. Of our farms, we do have 11 people that are renting our land. And all these are all the contracts that have these sort of practices in it. Because, a real educational part to give to them at night. And not always easy. 11 different farmers with 11 different ideas to make the land holy and take care of the land. So we can respect that and respect the love God of God's people, how we feed them. So my life yet is very busy. I'm very fortunate. My life is strong. And then now I'm working with diocese and priests in local parishes, family of parishes. And that made me really aware how great our charism is, missionaries of precious blood. We're out for Catholic social teachers. We're out living the Christ people, getting our shoes and hands dirty, being with the people and struggling and walking life with them. And I can do this as a brother. The work in parish is endless with listening and I come in, and then I still try to balance that with my work at St. Charles with the conservation issues of managing these 11 people that rent parts of 1,100 acres that were killed. And I also manage our woods here too. So just briefly, I think that's enough. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Nick. Would Jerry or Tim like to go next?
We have the experience of being together. Formation,
Jerry's going to need to sit closer to the computer because we can't hear him, or wherever your mic is.
Where's the speaker here?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Better?
Yes.
This one?
Yeah.
Bryan. I'm happy to see you in this chair on the other side of the fence, so to speak. We had our time together, didn't we? And look at David, yes, Formation House. David. Keep wondering, how long is this going to go on? You're looking good. The time of Lucas when I was in formation, changed and highlighted as well as what an experience it is, right? I can only encourage you guys to continue the work you're doing. This so-called automatic stuff that we're doing, wonderful. That's a good foundation. Thank you guys for sticking in there. Doing what you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll go next.
Go ahead.
For those who don't know me, my name is Brother Tim Cagle. I started out by studying for the priesthood and realized my first year that wasn't me. And I had talked to my director there, and he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to teach. And so he said, well, in order to be a teacher, you have to join a religious order. Well, I grew up in the Youngstown Diocese, and there are no religious orders there. It's all dioceses. I didn't know anybody. And so Father Tom Bishop knew Brother Bernie Bargy at Bernardale, and he suggests I go out there and meet Brother Bernie. So I went to Bernardale and fell in love with the place and with the guys. It was a Brother Sebastian was there, Brother Joe Fisher was there, Father Stan Kmick was there, Brother Jerry was there, Brother Adrian was there, Brother Norbert. I thought I'd forget Brother Norbert. He was an act all by himself to follow. And I spent a year there, and their program was called Look and See. You came, you looked, you saw, and they looked at you. They decided that I was worth a chance to take on, so I went off to St. Joe's College. And I discovered one thing immediately. I was an older member. I was like 3 years older than everybody else, so they called me Grandpa. I was Grandpa to them. I was that much further in age. And so I studied education, put my time in there. Then it was time for special formation at St. James de Les. Put my years in there. Then I went off to IC for my final year, where I taught 5th grade. And 3 years later, it was time to make my final commitment. I did that. And then Brother Tom Bonham, where he's hiding up there on the screen, said I had to continue my education. So I went off and picked up a master's in pastoral ministry. Did that, and I was pastoral minister at Minster for 3 years. Then I was getting tired of that and itching, and my teaching license was about to expire. So I thought this is a chance to go and see if I still had the desire to teach. So I went down to Precious Blood. I taught there and found out that I still loved teaching. So we looked around and I found a job at St. Peter's in Huber Heights, where I spent the last 20 years teaching religion to the 7th and 8th graders. So I had the religion program for the junior high at the parish. And then that's where I met a bunch of other characters like the Huber Heights Fire Department. They got me on their POT team, community outreach. So I ended up teaching first aid, CPR with those people. It's a military parish, so to speak. So I fell with the young Marines, became their chaplain, went with them for 7 years. Still am. Only now I told them that I would be in their chaplain long distance. So if they ever need me for anything or they need another adult to supervise, I'd be willing to come down. And then, so now I'm at St. Charles. I'm the head sacristan. Funny thing is, I was never an altar boy. I had no idea what a sacristan did. I had no idea what a sacristan job was described to Brother Theo, who would have been here, but he's not feeling too well right now. He taught me, and if you should ask him, he'll tell you he's still teaching me, and I'm still learning because I go to him and I say, "Oh, mighty Brother Theo, what is this?" And then he'll just look at me and politely explain it to me so I would understand. And off I go. So I'm the local director now at St. Charles. So that's a new job description I thought I'd never have. And that's thanks to Brother Tom Bowman. He kind of put the bug in my ear and wanted to know if I would like to do that a couple of years ago, and I thought about it. Talked it over with the provincials. And then, so here I am. But the funny part that I find interesting is I'm subbing at IC school. And my first job at IC, where I started teaching, was back in the very same 5th grade classroom where I started 30-some years ago. So I had made a complete circle, started at IC school, and now I'm going to end at IC school. And I was there today teaching in Immaculate Conception in Salina, 6th grade. So it was an interesting experience, and one that I'm glad that God called me to do, to take a trip with him. And that's it.
Thank you.
Brother Bowman should talk.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I think we're down to a couple. Joe?
I'll go next, and then Brother Tom can have the grand finale.
Yeah.
So I'm from Wapakoneta, Ohio, and I see Dave and Jane McNeil, our WAPOC companions. Good to see you guys. WAPOC was flooded with precious blood priests and sisters when I was growing up. We only had, I think, one lay teacher in the school who was not a precious blood sister, and we had 3 precious blood priests. So it was really hard to get out of there without being a precious blood member. Although I did have a chance to visit the Sacred Heart Priests and Brothers in Shelby, Ohio. But from the get-go, like I said, we were precious blood people. Father Mike Homko of Whiting fame baptized me way back when in the day. And then I went to the grade school, and it was in 4th grade that we started to be able to see vocation clips, little like 20-minute, half-hour videos on vocations of priests and sisters. And then in 5th grade, we had a precious blood nun. I tell you, this is the strictest nun I ever had. She had a glare that would wilt a flower at 1,000 yards. That was really a strict class we were in, but she made an impression on all of us because she's always regularly would invite us to be, she said, think about being a priest brother. That's the first time I heard brother, or a sister. And they kept feeding us with these vocation videos and whatnot. And it was in the back of my mind, I'd like to do something, but I don't want to be a priest. And the reason I didn't want to be a priest was it took too long. It took about 12 or 13 years, and I hated school besides. I didn't want to study. At any rate, so when I heard that word brother, that rang a bell. I didn't know what it was. I asked my mom on the way home from school one day, I said, Mom, what's a brother? And she said, well, we used to have a brother who worked here in the parish. And she said, I think he did most of his work in the rectory. So that stayed there. That fall, there was a movie that came to the cinema. Yeah, we had a cinema in Wapakoneta. And it was on the life of St. Francis of Assisi. And wouldn't you know it, St. Francis was a lay brother. He wasn't ordained until the last year or so of his life. And that kind of grabbed me. And then I got to be a server. And if you were a server, one of the benefits was you got to go to St. Charles for the servers picnic. And the seminarians there who ran the servers picnic had a tent set up with their vocation tent. And sure enough, there was cards to sign up if you wanted to be a priest or a brother. So I put down, my classmate dared me to do it. And we did it on a dare. I would do it if he did it. So I picked the card up and signed and put it in the box for brothers. Well, I came to find out later he never even did the card. But they called my name over the loudspeaker during the servers picnic, and I got scared. So I ran into the main building and hid in the chapel until it was time for benediction, and then we went home afterwards. That fall, this was like a year later, I lived on a farm, and we had lived in a house back a lane. So I had just worked, it was a Saturday, and I had just come in from working in the fields, and we had supper, and up the lane comes this, I think it was a little white Nova. But who gets out of the car? None other than Brother John Bruni. He had picked up the card, and he was checking on me to see if I was interested in being a brother. And we cleaned the table up, and Brother John just sat down around the table with my mom and dad and me, and we talked about being a brother in the province. And then Brother John invited me to go to the vocation workshop at Brennerdale. Brennerdale was our high school seminary at the time. So I spent 1 week living as what as a seminarian or a brother candidate would live at Brunnerdale. We got up at the crack of dawn, went to chapel, had breakfast, and then went to these simulated classes, did a little work, cleaned the johns and whatnot, swept the floors, helped mow the lawn, and then we had sports activities in the afternoon, playing softball. This really rocked, and the big attraction was an indoor swimming pool. So this really got me. I said, yeah, I like this a lot. I came home and I told my dad, I said, I really want to go back there and be a brother candidate, because they had a brother candidate school at Brunnerdale. Well, my dad wasn't too happy with that. He wanted me to be a farmer, take over the farm operation. I went through the process, got accepted at Brunnerdale, and I went to Brunnerdale in 1964. I think it was September 1st of 1964. And then we were in the college track. That was kind of unusual at that time. Brothers really weren't encouraged to do college work, but Father Carl Wise and the other pioneers who were looking at developing brothers so they could be open to other opportunities wanted us to get into the college track. So that's what we did. So we studied and got prepped for going to St. Joe College after our graduation from Brunnerdale. So some of my classmates and colleagues at the time were Brother Tom's a classmate of mine, and then Terry Neufer came a year later. There's quite a few of us. There were 20 of us in the brother candidate school my first year. There were 101 or 102 in the seminarian freshman class. It was a big. There was over 300 of us in that building. Well, I graduated from Brunnerdale, went to St. Joe College, and you've heard the brother Gerard von Hagel's name mentioned a number of times. So Brother Gerard was one of the guys who really promoted the brothers in the community. And I remember he called when we got to the brother postulacy at St. Joe's, he called each one of us individually into his office. And I don't know what he asked Brother Tom or Brother Ben or anybody else, but I remember what he asked me. He said, what do you want to do as a brother in the society? And well, I wanted to be a farmer, because I worked with Brother Jerome on my school days at Brunnerdale. And I knew the society had a lot of farms. St. Charles had a big farm. Burkittsville was a big farm. And then we had Brunnerdale. And I thought, well, I want to be a farmer. So I told Brother Gerard, I said, I'd like to go to Purdue University and get a degree in agronomy and then go back and work on the farms. He just looked at me and he said, you can't do that. He said, we need accountants. So unbeknownst to me, an hour later, I was in the accounting chairman's office at St. Joe College, and I spent an hour or so in his office, and the next 4 years of my life were dictated to me. He pulled out a legal pad and he had a page for every year of the things I had to study. And that legal pad was my companion for, like I said, 4 years. Well, graduated from college with a degree in accounting in 1972 and started my special formation year, which was at St. Adalbert Parish in Cleveland, Ohio, inner city parish. Brother Rob talked about his time there. Brother Tom was there. They came long after me, but I started there. And was that ever a cultural shock? Here was a little white kid from the farm, nonetheless, going into the inner city, all African American, stood out like a sore thumb. But I tell you, that was really a great experience. People were down to earth. They were very welcoming. They made you feel good and accepted. So it was a really good experience. I was there for 4 years. After I made my temporary profession, I went back and worked at St. Adalbert's for another 3 years. And then the provincial came and asked me to go to Brunnerdale to work as an administrator in the office So I went because I liked Brunnerdale when I was in formation there. And that was a large community. Brother Tim Cahill has already told you about the community there. We had a bunch of brothers. Brother Ben was stationed there at the time, and it was good. It was a good experience. So it was a lot of work. And what I enjoyed about it was if I got tired of working in the office, I could go out and help Brother Jerome and Brother Adrian on the farm. And I did that. And Brother Jerome and Brother Adrian were pioneers in starting no-till farming. And I remember the first field that I planted, the no-till field that I planted corn in, the weeds were really high and you couldn't tell where you were going. And I asked Brother Jerome, I said, how am I going to keep these corn rows straight? He says, just drive. Well, that was a good experience too, keeping close to my roots, so to speak. Then I was at Brunnerdale for 11 years. We closed Brunnerdale in 87 or 89. But Father Calick asked me to come to the provincial office in Dayton to work as the treasurer of the society in 1987. And that's what I did. I've been doing that ever since. I made my final profession as a brother in 1977. The irony of this is, if you count the years, I started in 1964. I made my profession in 77. It's 13 years. Remember, I didn't want to be a priest because it took 13 years to be a priest.
Huh.
God's got divine humor, I guess. So I've been, one of the things I did on the side at Brunnerdale and when I first came to Dayton was work with religious education. I really liked that. But my MBA studies got in the way and I've never gone back to working with religious education. But so that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Tom?
Well, you've heard from everybody else and everybody looks kind of tired. Let's call it a night. I was hoping to, I thought, gosh, it's getting closer and closer to 9:30. I might not have to do anything here. It looked like things were going well for a while there. But we, unfortunately, Bryan, let me extend my sympathy a little bit there. You've had a full day. You've had a full day. Bryan's brother was buried. You might have mentioned it to the group before, but you had a funeral there this morning, I understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Tom, and everybody for your prayers and support.
I joined the community because of Joe Fisher. I was at the servers picnic, 7th grade, 8th grade. And Joe, they introduced Joe to me as somebody who had been at Brennerdale and all that type of thing. I was so inspired by Joe that I've stayed for another 46, 47 years. You know, it's been a lot of fun. The order's been a lot of fun. We've got a lot of good priests in the order, but when somebody asked me about priesthood versus brotherhood, I decided I always use Brother Hugh Henderson's line, which was, I think I'll go all the way and become a brother. Which, if you don't know what that means, many people come up to brothers and say, why didn't you go all the way? Why did you decide to become a brother instead of a priest? If you just gone a couple more years, you could have become a priest. My answer, I think I've had too much fun as a brother to think of anything else. It's been a good group of people who were brothers, and I've had the opportunity to work in 6 parishes. I grew up in a farm, and I've lived most of my life in the city, but doing different things, teaching. Always seemed to, somebody would always say, we need some help with athletics. And I always seem to get that go in that direction. I guess that's why I'm wearing a sweatshirt from the Ohio State University. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio. So anyway, that's the long and short of it. And hopefully, you know, I guess that's pretty much it for me. But I do see somebody back there. Ton is going to
Yes.
do the finale.
Yes, I noticed Tan has arrived and is present with us.
Scoot up, Tom.
All right, howdy. It's been a long day, so it's gonna be short for me. I was born and raised in Manila in the Philippines, and I did my PhD in the Netherlands where I met Bob Schreiter. He was a visiting professor. Bob Schreiter became co-director for my dissertation, and that's what paved the way for my inquiry, Precious Blood. And am I muted or no?
No.
Okay.
Oh, you're on. We can hear you.
Okay, so I did all my discernment actually in Rome with Jerry Stack, who was then in the what do you call his title?
The arc.
No, he was anyway, he had a position as general counsel.
General Secretary.
General Secretary.
There you go. Yeah, he's general
Same
secretary.
position I have now.
Yeah.
So I
Probably
did
the same room. Probably the same room.
there you go. So I did my discernment with Jerry Stack in Rome, and then my first visit to a Precious Blood community was in Neuenheerse in Germany. It's like a small town in the middle of nowhere. I'm the only non-German walking around. So I asked a kid, have you ever seen an Asian before? But when my studies were done, I flew to Dayton, Ohio, and that started my formation. And in terms of serving, I did 1 year in Cincinnati. I was in the choir at St. Mark's and also served in the soup kitchen during special formation. And then I went straight to Chicago and started teaching. And I have been teaching at CTU for 15 years. It's been that long. Where did the years go, right? So I pour heart and soul and all my energies into the teaching ministry. It's a blessing to be at CTU. It's a very intercultural community. I don't feel like a fish out of the water because it's very diverse. But I'm really a nerd at heart, and I really enjoy books, studying, and just being my nerdy self. And I've never felt called to being a priest. I was called to be a brother. That was very, very sure for me. And what drew me really was to serve shoulder to shoulder with God's people, and to also to have wiggle room and creative space to do the things that I do, the gifts that God gave me, and to serve in the mission field where I feel I'm called. And so here I am. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tan. Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing. I was just wondering, this is a time where I guess the floor is open for any feedback or questions or thoughts or inspirations. Hopefully not any expirations.
This is Ruth Mather out in Missouri. I want to thank you all for taking the time to share with us, to share your story. And while I've had conversations with many of you, there's some I never had, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
I'll comment from our Centerville, Iowa group here. I'm just amazed at the amazing diversity of your careers and your ministries. I just am so impressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very special to us.
Yeah, I think there's this richness that's tied to ministry and the vocation of brotherhood in our community. Though there's all kinds of components, right? There's spirituality, community life, ministry, et cetera, et cetera. And I think in my experience in the precious blood, there's this sort of richness in tying the vocation of brotherhood intensely into ministry itself, you know. And I think the diversity springs up from there, you know.
This is Mary Ellen Lehman from Putnam County and my husband, Tim. My brother, Jerry. Got to shout that out because I think it's really neat to see so many people mention how Brother Jerry has had an impact in their formation, because he was a big reason why we became companions through an invitation. So not only did he inspire brothers, but he also inspired us as companions, and he does continue to still inspire us. So thank you, Brother Jerry, for that.
Thank you.
And I love that this is being recorded so that maybe we can share this with our companion group at one of our gatherings.
That'd be great.
It'll be on the website probably next week. So hopefully if we don't have any technical difficulties. So never say never.
I have a question for the companions that I'll just ask. But I thought I heard another voice. Okay, I guess I'll ask a question. How could we as brothers continue to support the companion movement? Come on, let's hear it.
Prayer.
I think sharing your story like you did tonight, this was very inspirational to hear, like, where everybody started and all the different paths. And as an educator, I like hearing a lot of how education has been intertwined into many of your journeys.
I think for me, what really stands out is how Brother Daryl was always a part of our companion group. He'd travel up to St. Joe many, many times, and he also stood on the corner of Belton Frederick and did the death penalty vigils too. So Brother Daryl was always very present to our companions, and people still talk about him and how great it was to have him at our groups, at our gatherings.
Yes, I agree. Brother Daryl used to come to our Liberty Companion gatherings, and I just think if you have a connection to a companion group, that being a part of that is really important. To, you know, whether if you're a sponsor, that's fine, but to just come to the gatherings and be present with us.
Thank you.
Brother Nick is our sponsor, so he's with us every month, and he's such a humble, loving person that it's always great to share and be with him. So thanks, Nick.
And we actually
I think that for myself, the thing that has really touched me the most about the brothers is I probably learned more from them than anyone, not only by words, but mostly by actions. And I can remember one time in particular when we were out at Liberty for a companion council meeting, and Brother Daryl asked me if I wanted to join him in evening prayer. And that really touched me, that a brother would want me to pray evening prayer with them. And then he said we would go out to eat, and he took me to Hy-Vee because he said that's where the people are. And I never forgot that. He wanted to be where the people are. So, and I could talk all night about Brother Jerry and several of the others, but those were the two that just popped into my head, just by being themselves.
Yeah, I have to add on too that I've had wonderful experiences, and it seems like you've all been wonderfully approachable. Obviously, Brother Darrell, with all the things we did with them, social justice issues and those types of things, and the workshops that you led in those areas. But also, Brother Juan was involved in our retreats a couple of times. Had some great conversations with him. The guys out at St. Charles, and I know Brother Theophane's not here with us tonight. I hope he's feeling better. But you know, he took me on a personal tour of the place the first time I ever went out there, and took me into the archive room and down into on the terrace level, you know, into the storage where all the books and those types of things are too. And just made me feel so welcome. And I learned so much just talking to him. And then, of course, I met Brother Jerry through Tim and Mary Ellen when I went out there, when we did the exchange of names and getting to know people from the other provinces and that type of thing. And we all met together, and that was a wonderful time. But I also remember the last, in 2019, I went to both provincial assemblies. And so I went to the assembly in St. Charles, and most of the people that I got to have real good conversations with were the brothers, Brother Joe and Brother Tom and Brother Tim. And I mean, that's where I got to know you guys. And you know, we had wonderful conversations, and I thank you for that, because it meant a lot to me, being the first time I was at your provincial assembly.
Thank you, Ruth.
Hi, this is Claire Wheeler. This has been an amazing night. It was nice to see all of you guys that I know and remember Ralph talking about all of them, especially the farmers, Brother Nick, Brother Jerry, and Brother Darrell. I appreciate, you're probably the only person that liked my CCD teaching, but I appreciate the story. Anyway, this was a great night, and you know, Doris and I probably won't be able to get to Kansas City or to any of the meetings, but this is a wonderful way for us to communicate. So it was nice meeting those brothers that I didn't know, but good to see those of you that I remember and know very well.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you.
Brother Darrell was the first Precious Blood brother I met. Actually, he was the first brother, period, that I met when he was hospitality at Liberty, when I went there for a visit. And I remember we went on a couple not protests, but social justice events. And I got to meet Brother Jerry at St. Joe's College in Rensselaer when I went to the Brother Barry Fisher retreat. And so I've met a few others, but I've been to St. Charles. Brother Theophane showed me all the bookstore. And anyway, it's just been a great evening listening to all your stories, all coming from different places in life and all ending up as brothers. So thank you for sharing your stories.
You're welcome, Trudy. Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll see you Thursday.
Vicki, thank you for setting this up. This was just such a great idea.
Oh, you're welcome. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the brothers, because what a lot of the companions don't know is many of these guys, like Brother Tom is the sponsor for 3 companion groups. Brother Nick is a sponsor for 3 companion groups. Brother Bryan is a sponsor. Brother Joe is a sponsor. The companions in many areas could not have survived without the support we've received from our brothers. So I, on behalf of them, I say thank you. And I also extend that invitation that if you happen to be in the area and you want to know who's gathering where, ask Bryan. Bryan knows, ask me, and just go to a companion gathering because we just love having you there and just love wanting to share faith and prayer and to be together just like we were this evening. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy days, and Juan for staying up now past the crack of dawn, to share this time together. And we will do something more like this again. I promise.
Okay, before we all leave, I'm Barry. This is my wife Teresa. We're Columbus, the companions. Brother Tom is our sponsor, and I've really enjoyed hearing from all your brothers. And I think this is a really good sales thing for vocations. Use that as a good tool, I think, maybe to hear about all your different backgrounds and everything might interest some kids to get into vocations. I really enjoyed hearing all your stories, though.
Thank you.
I can see Brother Tom looking and saying, it's time for a closing prayer.
Yes.
Okay. Go for it, Bryan.
Oh, maybe Daryl should do it. Since Bryan did the opening, let Daryl do the closing. Or better yet, let our new Vatican II department chair of CTU do the closing prayer, Dr. Cison. Oh, get back here.
You're not gonna do it? All right. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. Loving God, we thank you so much for gathering us together this evening in fellowship to share stories with one another and affirmations of each other in this gift of faith which you've given us together. Lord, we ask you to keep guiding us in the way of precious blood spirituality, in the way of your Son, Jesus, that we keep being a shining light in the world, a world full of division. May we show love and concern, mutuality. Lord, these things we know that you can give us, and we put our trust in you. Be with us this evening and grant us your peace through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Brother Darrell.